Welcome back to our channel where we tell you what we would do differently if we're the creators of TV shows and movies. And in today's video, we will be rewriting the rest of The Walking Dead Season 2. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, we are at a scene which they are looking for Sophia, and they come across a walker that looks bloated, and Daryl will kill it and cut it open looking for any sign that it was near Sophia. Carol is crying and talking about how she wished Ed would die, and she's praying that this ain't going to be her punishment. The scene was in the original show, but we're moving it here. It originally took place when they found the church in the woods, but we're moving it up to here. Daryl tells them that the walker hasn't been anywhere near Sophia, so Carl, Rick, and Shane split up to go hunting, and Carl gets shot while looking at a deer up close. And this is when we get introduced to Otis, and he runs up and apologizes. We're at a thing that happened in the comic book, but we're reworking it. So Shane will punch Otis, and Rick will point a gun at him. Otis will tell Rick that if he shoots him, then Carl will die because they have a doctor where he lives. Rick lowers his gun slowly and puts it back in its holster, and then Rick will pick up Carl as Otis is telling them where it's at. And everything pretty much plays out the same until Maggie saves Andrea. The difference is that she will not kill the walker, and that's a hint of, them thinking that walkers are sick and Herschel having walkers in the barn. Daryl kills the walker. Maggie tells Lori that she needs to come now because Carl's been shot, and she tells the rest of the group where to go, telling them that there's a mailbox with the name Green on it. The next few scenes will pretty much be the same, with Herschel doing surgery, learning that they need supplies to get the remainder of the bullet fragments out. Shane and Otis will go and get the supplies from the school, and we would hear, after cut the black wood, hear a gunshot. The episode would start off with Shane running from walkers, Otis nowhere in sight. Before we would cut back to Shane and Otis going to get the supplies, but they see if they'll run. It would then cut to Dale as he goes to check out a noise coming from the barn. And then we would see Daryl looking for Sophia. He would find her doll, and he would get back on his horse, but it gets scared and knocks him off. He would end up falling and getting stabbed by his own arrow, which makes him hallucinate. He starts seeing his brother Merle. The hallucinations of Merle torment him. We're adding an element of Daryl starts to believe it's real, because his mind being all messed up from him losing quite a bit of blood. He realized that it's a walker, and the walker attacks him. And then it would cut back to the rest of the group as Rick and Glenn and Maggie to get medical supplies. Lori pulls Glenn aside and asks him to get her birth control pills, attempt to end the pregnancy. Glenn and Maggie will go to the pharmacy, and everything with that storyline pretty much stayed the same, except during the second trip, we're combining it with this one, and it instead of Maggie getting attacked, instead a walker herd will appear, and they will have to hide, and they come up with a plan to sneak inside. After they sneak inside, pretty much it seems quiet, so they end up searching the place. They had to split up in different, they get different supplies, thinking the place is empty. Shane finds the medical supplies. We're at a scene where when Shane hears gunshot, he quickly runs and sees Otis killing several walkers, and they end up getting on the bleachers. And the rest of it plays out mostly the same. We find out that Shane, after they both are down on to their final bullets, Shane will shoot Otis in the foot and take the supplies back to Herschel. But he gets grabbed by Otis and part of his hair gets ripped out. And the episode will end with Daryl climbing up a hill and seeing a hallucination of his brother one final time before a walker walks off the edge, barely missing him, and Daryl would see a little girl running off. The episode would begin with us seeing Otis' funeral as Shane gives a speech of his final moments, or at least his version of his final moments. We would then cut to Daryl as he's approaching the church with the door open. It would then cut to the intro, and then after the intro we cut to Rick and Lori talking when Lori tells Rick that she's pregnant. Unknown to them, Shane overheard them. They both notice Shane, and Lori just walks away. Rick looks at Shane about to speak, but Shane also walks away. After a few minutes to make sure that Rick would not see, Shane finds Lori and confronts her about the pregnancy. Shane tells her that he knows it's his kid. Back at the church, Daryl walks in with his crossbow ready to shoot. He looks around, seeing a walker banging on another door. Inside the church, he shoots it in the head, but another one comes from behind and nearly bites his shoulder, but Daryl pulls his vest off just in time. He pulls a knife out and stabs it in the head. He looks at his shoulder and makes sure that he's not bitten, and obviously he's not. And then Daryl would walk over to the door that the other walker was banging on and slowly opens it. Daryl walks inside and sees Sophia hiding in a corner. This episode would begin with Rick and Shane talking in a car while driving. They see a place that could have lots of supplies, so they decide to go see if there's any supplies. They get out of the car and split up to look for supplies. And they're about to leave, so Rick grabs the rest of the supplies from inside, but a guy points a gun to Rick's head. We skip to Shane as he gathers supplies when all of a sudden Rick walks out slowly. Two other guys surround Shane with their gun drawn. Shane looks surprised and asks what the heck is going on. Randall would look at Shane and tell him that they're stealing from them, and Rick will try to talk them out of it, saying that they'll put the stuff back and they'll just leave and they'll never see him again. Shane would set down the bag of supplies and say they can take it, just like Rick is saying. The other guy laughs and one of them says that they can't let them go. Shane sneakily pulls out his gun and waits for one of the men to walk by them. He grabs him. Shane shoots the other man in the head and then points the gun at Randall. Randall grabs Rick again and Shane says that they can make a trade. They make the trade and Shane shoots the other man in the head as he walks away. Randall makes a run for it and Shane chases him. Rick stops Shane, telling him it's not worth it, but Shane pushes Rick down and runs after Randall, killing him. Rick runs to Shane and asks what the hell and says that they didn't have to do that. Shane gets mad and punches Rick, telling him to shut the hell up. Rick punches Shane and Shane looks at Rick and his nose is slightly bleeding. He punches Rick back, which leads into a big fight. Walkers start surrounding them because they're making so much noise. Then we would cut to the farm as Carol looks into the distance and falls to her knees, and everyone else looks at Carol, then looks over at what she sees. Daryl's holding Sophia in his arms, and of course, in this version, Andrea does not shoot him. Carol gets up and runs to them, grabbing Sophia and hugging her tightly. It cuts to inside where Carl is slowly waking up and he asks Lori where his dad is. And she tells him that his dad went to get supplies with Shane, and Carl nods, asking where Sophia is. Lori is about to tell him she's not here when Carol walks in and is holding Sophia in her arms. This episode would start with Shane running from the walkers and into a abandoned bus. Shane looks at how much ammo he has and it's almost empty. He curses under his breath before he points the gun at the door, ready to fight his way past or die trying. He sees Rick running for a car and thinks Rick is leaving him behind, which obviously just makes him more upset. Shane yells at Rick, asking what the hell is he doing, and Rick drives off, leaving Shane, or at least what he thinks. Rick will drive back around, shooting at them, and Shane runs out, jumping into the car quickly. Rick drives off, heading back to the farm. They arrive back at the farm, and Lori runs out, seeing Rick's face all bloody with cuts and bruises all over him. She asks Shane what happened since he didn't have that many cuts and bruises. Rick speaks up, saying that they was attacked, and he tells her Shane saved him. It's obviously Lori doesn't believe him, but he doesn't notice. Lori takes Rick inside to clean them up, and as soon as they're out of ear range, she tells him that Shane is dangerous. She tells him that her and Shane were together before he got back, and that Shane thinks that the baby is his. Rick tells her that makes sense, that she thought he was dead and he'll deal with it. Lori hugs Rick before speaking again. She tells Rick that Daryl found Sophia and that Carl is waiting. And Carl and Sophia are talking as Carl sees Rick and says goodbye to Sophia. As she leaves, Rick says that he's glad she's okay and walks to Carl. And the rest of the scene stayed the same, with Rick giving Carl the hat. The group is talking when Andrew runs up telling them Dale is missing. They all start searching for him, and Rick and Shane goes into the woods. Shane leads Rick into a big field. It would cut to Glenn and Daryl finding Walker Dale. Daryl shoots him in the head, and after they examine the body, Daryl noticed that Dale's neck was no bite marks. This episode would start off with a flashback where we would see Shane and Daryl. Dale confronts him about pointing a gun at Rick at the old camp. Shane would laugh it off and says that he doesn't know what he saw, and asked him if he really thinks that he'll kill his best friend, and calls him delusional. Dale says that Shane is dangerous and that he'll just have to see what everyone else thinks, and he starts walking away. But Shane follows him, snaps his neck, and drags him into the woods. We would cut back to Rick and Shane in the field. And we would, pretty much get the same dialogue where Rick would turn to Shane and say, "So this is where you plan to do it?" And then Shane was like, "Seems as good a place as any," and he raises his gun. Rick mumbles under his breath, "You killed them." Shane laughs and yells that he can't hear him, and Rick says again louder that he killed them. Shane then says that Rick doesn't know crap, and Rick says that Shane killed Dale and Otis. Then Lunge led him into the wood to kill him too. Shane tells Rick to draw his gun, and Rick says that Shane will just have to kill an unarmed man. Rick pulls out his gun and holds the gun towards himself and walks towards Shane. He tells Shane that they can still come back from this. He's in front of Shane by this point, and Shane keeps his gun drawn on Rick. Rick acts like he's going to give him the gun. Shane thinks that Rick is weak as Rick gets closer, and Shane lets down his guard, which was his downfall, as Rick stabs him, yelling that Shane made him do this. And when Rick stabs Shane, Shane's gun went off. Carl walks over and says, "Dad," quietly, and Rick quickly runs over to his son before hugging him and telling him that Shane was changed by the world, and Carl told his dad that he knows because he saw the whole thing. They started walk back to the camp, unknowing that the gunshot drawed more walkers. They noticed the walkers behind them and started running back to the farm. When they arrived, there already a herd of walkers at the farm, and the rest of the episode plays out pretty much the same with, them all trying to escape the farm, and we would get the same scene of Daryl and Rick looking at the prison, but one small change I'll add, we see a little bit of snow fall to the ground. And that's where the season leaves off. This only had 7 episodes, but we felt like it would just be overall stronger to cut it down, only focus on the most important stuff. That's why we kept Randall in there, but we didn't have him be captive or nothing like that. And if you want to be technical, he's a original character at this point. But anyways, we'll see you in the next one.